I didn't expect that. Hello, everyone.
Hi
Hello.
everyone, good
It's high noon.
afternoon. It is high noon exactly. It is exactly
Hands up.
noon.
Hands on your gun. We draw
Yeah,
on 5.
we draw at noon. Welcome to a Western. Once upon a
Exactly.
time
In
in
Bologna.
Bologna.
You know
Ah,
that one of the actually you do know this, don't you? That one
hmm.
of the greatest Western movie directors was an Italian. And that's
Yeah, what's his name? There's
exactly.
loads of them on right at the
Can't
moment,
remember
I
now.
think.
Because
It was a
that's why
huge
you got
part of
spaghetti
the
westerns.
spaghetti westerns. Yeah, it's a big part of the Italian cinematic history is like westerns
Yeah,
being made
yeah,
in Rome. No, it's amazing.
exactly. Who would have
I
thought?
have to say, I don't. I've not seen many westerns, but the ones that I have, I've really liked. So it makes me think that I have this natural suspicion about westerns,
Hmm.
but I've seen like nice alternative. Like I watched recently during this lockdown, I saw McCabe and Mrs. Miller, which is by Robert Altman from 19, I'm going to say late 60s, and it's really incredible. It's
Hmm.
just that it's known as being like a subversive take on the Western. But I like Django as well. I like Tarantino, who does the same thing. I like The Revenant. I like what's that? No Country for Old Men, which is a kind of Western-ish thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so
Modern times, kind of.
maybe I should just watch some westerns. Though maybe I do like them.
Maybe
I
you
don't
do.
know.
Who knows?
Like I like the tropes when they're in films. I've just never. My dad used to watch them when I was younger. They would be on like Channel 5. No, um,
Yeah,
they would kind of be there. I've never
yeah.
seen one all the way.
We have to look them up because I know that there are some fantastic westerns out there.
Yeah,
And
and on where I play at the moment has a whole section
oh,
of
really?
West. Uh-huh. But
I'll
I've
have
not
to
watched
go.
any of them. But they're
I'll have
there.
to check it out then. What? I just I just saw. So if you don't know us, my name's
Yeah.
Alex. I come from England, and a very very small um, village village town. It's in between kind of. It's a commuter or a sleeper village.
Mm.
Sleeper or commuter village. Essentially,
For
what that
where?
means.
Sorry, go on.
Torquay and Newton Abbot, if not
Ah,
Exeter
okay.
or some of the bigger cities. If you don't know what a sleeper or a commuter village is, typically villages, it could be a town perhaps, but it's a place where no one works, but where people live. So they go to sleep there and then they go and work somewhere else. So that's to commute.
Mhm.
Sleeper in this case just means that it's a place where people sleep and don't
We
work.
also say dormitory town. That's
Oh,
what they call
nice.
my because mine is also a sleeper village, a commuter village, or a dormitory town. I'm just checking I didn't make that up.
No, I just checked as well for the
Yeah,
spelling more than anything.
yeah. We're both from commuter towns in the south of England.
Exactly. And I find it
Fascinating
very
places.
strange. Pardon?
I said fascinating places for everyone.
Because today we're talking about the history of our cities,
Right.
which could be interesting for us. I know a
Hmm.
few facts about where I'm from, obviously, but it's not as interesting as perhaps. So currently, we both live in Bologna, which
Hmm.
has a much richer history, a much
Absolutely.
richer history. If you don't know, my colleague
I'm
today.
Hal. Hello, hello. I am from the southeast of England, also from a sleep. It's a town, really, a dormitory town or a commuter town on the edge of London. It really is a. It really is a like incredible. If you go to the train station, which takes
Mhm.
it's about half an hour from London Waterloo, from West Byfleet Village train station. If you go there between the hours of I don't know, I guess 6:30 and 8:30, it's just a constant stream of people in suits. It's amazing.
Oh,
I mean, it's
wow.
kind of weird, but yeah, and all those trains are usually packed, rammed, extremely busy. And yeah, and then again in the evenings between, I guess, 5 and 7, there's just an endless stream of people getting off the trains. So it's
I really
yeah,
like that the
work,
trains are rammed and
rammed.
an endless stream of
Uh-huh.
workers. Both of those are really nice.
Endless stream of people, of workers going into London. Yeah, exactly.
So rammed means that it's full.
Yeah, it makes me think of like on Tokyo subways, and you can't get any, you're ramming. To ram is to like squeeze.
Exactly.
So if it's rammed, it's like nobody else can get on because you have already pushed
Exactly.
everyone in. It's rammed, which is
And
true.
then, yeah, no, it is true. I mean, ram. I imagine it does come from just to ramming down doors and everything with big siege weapons. And then an endless stream of workers as well is really nice. Honestly, that would be a metaphor, right? But it's so commonplace that
yeah, you're right.
we don't consider. Yeah, it's a dead metaphor. Let's write the definition.
Also, it's quite a fairly common collocation, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
Endless stream, or you can say an unending stream. Unending and endless, more or less synonymous. But I think an endless stream is easier to say, and is a bit nicer. So yeah, a stream of something, like a continuous movement, flow of something, and then the endless just emphasizes that it doesn't have a stop. It's a dead metaphor.
Exactly. Is that more or less the definition? It's a metaphor that's used so much that it becomes normal, and it isn't really even considered unless I bring it up and say, huh, that's a metaphor. We don't consider it as a metaphor. It's not so poetic that it's just normal.
Yeah, I almost think of it as, it's kind of hard to think about. It's quite like linguistically and philosophically tricky. But I wonder if I suppose it's to do with the fact that you could teach someone what an endless stream of workers is without reference to a stream. Literally.
Yeah, definitely.
It would be possible to explain it with an image, and you'd go like, oh, okay. And then maybe later someone would learn, oh, but a stream is this, so that's why it's a metaphor. But you don't need that information in order to understand what's being said. Exactly.
Nice. That's a nice explanation. You're right. You're right. You could just teach that by itself. Definitely. Nice. So, surprise, surprise. This is what we're talking about. History of a city. Remember, in English, we have much more variety than in Italian, where we have village, town, and city, and we use these. They're very, very common to say, I come from a village, you come from a town, he comes from a city. In Italy, there's a tendency to basically just say city for everything. And then you have the small places, but we need to make sure that we're not saying country for small inhabitated. That's not a word. Is it?
Inhabited places. Ooh.
It sounds bad.
It does sound bad. It sounds like it's
Why does it sound bad? How?
No.
Places of inhabitation?
Yeah.
It sounds bad either way. Either way. I'm sure there's a perfect way of saying
that. Inhabited.
Thank you. There was a reason why it sounded so bad.
Yeah. It took me a minute.
Inhabited places. Country is going to be the entire country. So England is a country. Small place is a village. We use village in English. It doesn't mean that it's an undeveloped area. It just means that it's a small place.
Exactly.
With not a lot of people. Okay, so history of a city. Let's dive straight in. Can you read the objectives?
Sure, we have discuss the history of a city, revise passives, and look at phrases related to history.
Perfect. Where do you imagine that this place
I
is,
don't
and
know.
what do you think the history could be?
It looks, it's strange, isn't it? It looks kind of, on the one hand, Mediterranean-ish, mostly because of the sun, but also the piazza kind of thing.
Hmm.
But the architecture, the style, I don't know. I'm gonna say Spain, but I don't know. I don't. There's something about the buildings that doesn't look quite right for that. But I'm gonna
Yeah,
say Spain.
you're right. The buildings throw everything off. I don't know. Tell us what you think, where you think this place is. We have two people in the comments at the moment. We have Luisa from Monza. Hello, hello. Okay. And Martina as well from Milan.
Hi, Martina. Hey.
Yeah, so Spain, Portugal. I don't know. Spain or Portugal, I think, or maybe even the south of France.
Yeah, that's a
I
good
don't know.
one. Yeah.
Some kind of Mediterranean area.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tricky. It's tricky. Okay. Oh, this is definitely Italy. It has to be.
Has to be, surely. Look at
Looks
that.
like one of those walled cities in Tuscany
Mm-hmm.
or Umbria or something like that. Okay, the place where I was born. Answer these questions in pairs or just in the comments, obviously. How can you read number 1 and 2?
Okay, number one, how fundamental do you think it is to know a city's history? Number two, when did I say number two first? No, number two,
No.
when you know a city's history, do you think it changes your perception of it? Why?
Okay, we've got 3 as well. Do you know much about your own city's history? Are you interested in its history? And 4, are you proud of your city's history? Interesting questions. Oh, and we also have, okay, so Louisa weighed in. Let me write, because we're just using all of the phrasal verbs today. To weigh in on something.
Yeah, to weigh in.
Is to give an opinion. We also talk about, so weight, you most probably know for the physical characteristics. So I weigh X amount of kilos, more now because I'm in lockdown. But we also use weight in, I guess, in presence as well. So, for example, if there is someone in politics that is followed by a lot of people, is well respected, then their decision would have a lot of weight on eventual decisions. Obviously not his physical or her physical weight, but it's their presence. So it's difficult to guess. It could be a lot of places in Europe. Yeah, definitely. And one more.
Alessandro from Naples. Hi, thank you for joining us.
Hello, hello.
How are you doing today?
Thank you. So, Hal, let's talk about these. Please talk about your own cities as well. So, do you think it's necessary to know about a city's history?
It's not necessary. I mean, yeah, it can't be necessary because I know plenty of people, including myself at times, who don't know much about where they live. But I think it can be incredibly enriching. It can give you like a sense of almost like stability, knowing a bit about where you are. And it can give you a lot of pleasure as well. I mean, I find it really interesting in general. For example, when I was in, but I always do it too late. When I was in Manchester for 3 years, I read a big book specifically about the architecture of Manchester about
nice.
2 months before I left.
No.
So I had it for ages, this book on the history told through some of the buildings. and I regretted not reading it sooner. And now I'm in Bologna,
Oh no.
meaning to pick something up. I have read a few books about the city,
Okay.
but not kind of as many. I don't know enough about it yet, but I think it can be a really positive thing. Yeah, but I'm
Definitely.
not fundamental.
No, I agree with you as well. It's always nice to know. Also, just for very simple reasons. So if family or friends visit, then you can give a little bit of a tour.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you can appreciate a city definitely from looking at it and how it is today. But if you don't know the history, so for example, here in Bologna, we have, I don't know if you've noticed them, but on some porticos or on some walls, they've got these V's in a white circle with an arrow pointing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've seen them.
Those are actually remnants from World War II, which pointed to the direction of bomb shelters.
Wow,
And
I did not know that.
they still exist, and it's fantastic. Like you have history right there,
Yeah.
and people walk by them every day. But I've been teaching here in Bologna for 5 years total, and the amount of people that I've talked to from Bologna or who live in Bologna who know
Yeah.
about that, I can count on one hand. I think I
Yeah.
can count on my first hand, to be honest. It's really, really cool. Not
Cool.
necessary.
Cool. Well, you never know. It might be useful to know where a bomb shelter.
Maybe, I don't know.
Hopefully
I don't
not.
know.
Hopefully not. Alessandro, in my view, it depends on the city. Maybe Naples is more important than Latin, talking on a historical point. Okay. Where do you mean by Latin?
Like Romans,
Rome? Then like Roman history, I guess we would say. Uh,
maybe. But I mean, Naples was originally a Greek city, right?
mhm, mhm.
Neapolis. Get your ancient Greek history out. Neapolis is the new city, isn't it?
Right, exactly. Um,
We also have Louisa. I think that it's better to know something about a city where you are going to visit, but I prefer to organize by myself the sightseeing. So I prefer to organize the sightseeing by myself. Just swap it around a little. And finally,
Yes, because you know the reasons why your city has the actual things. Yes, so this is number two, how it changes your perception of it. I think, Alessandro, but I'm not sure, that we want to say, you know the reasons why your city has the current things, the things at the moment, the things now, because actual does not mean in English at the moment. It's
yeah,
not to do with time. It means in reality.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree with you, How, as well. It looks like he wants to say maybe how the city is now or
Yeah.
why the city is what it is.
Sure.
For example, here in Bologna, we've got all of these walls around the city center. Why? Why does it have these walls? Why is Bologna divided up into different gates as well? We've got all of these gates. Why? If you don't know any history, you just say, oh yeah, there are some gates. And that's it.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating. We have the Via Emilia as well, which was basically an artery, really, really important connection for the Roman Empire. Which ran straight through Bologna, straight through the center of Bologna, which is crazy. Imagine a motorway going through a city nowadays.
Right. Same principle. I like it. Alessandro, I'm sure, number three, I'm not sure, I'm sure not, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I'm really interested in the history of my city monuments. Nice. Okay.
Okay. Tell us about a famous monument or something in Naples. It's
Yeah.
got lots of history. We have.
Sometimes people don't know much about their hometown. For example, I've never made a tour in Milan Duomo. I've never had a tour or
Yeah.
take a tour or to have a tour. probably of a building, to take a tour of a building, even though it's inside, but you're having a tour of the building. Yeah, I find this quite surprising too, as someone who's new to Bologna. No offense to, it's nothing, because the same thing happened to me in Manchester. I think maybe because I'm in Italy, I feel different about it. But sometimes when I speak to students, I'm like, what's your favorite place in Bologna? Often they might not know like a lot of people will mention San Luca probably, but I love San Michele in Bosco, and lots of people are like, oh, I've never been there. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have Martina. Yeah, I agree with Luisa. Most of the time we take our history for granted. Really good.
I was just about to say to take something for granted. Exactly.
Really good. Exactly. I think it's as well something to do with complacency to a certain degree. If you live in a place, you have the idea that, oh, if I want to visit that, I can visit it tomorrow. Right. So you will never visit it because tomorrow never comes.
Exactly.
So in England, the amount of places that I've visited, like truly visited in England, are relatively limited in comparison to the amount of places that I've visited here in Italy. When I first moved to Italy, I thought, fantastic, let's go. I'm going to go here, 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 all of the cities. But now that I'm a little bit more permanent here in Italy, the amount of places that I visit has decreased. Because I live here. I mean, if I want to visit Modena, I don't think I have visited Modena, and it's only an hour away. I can visit it, well, not tomorrow, but I can visit it whenever I want.
Sure.
So there's no incentive for me to do it, which is strange. I don't know if you have the same feeling like with traveling. I think you're right.
Yeah, and one of the things that I want to do soon is exactly that, is like travel a lot in Italy, because it's new to me, so it doesn't feel exactly, I don't take it for granted. And when I left Manchester, I practically made like a list of places to go to in the last few months, which I'd been saying I would go to for ages, but had never gone to because I lived there. And it's quite strange when you end up doing all the kind of almost like touristy things that you sort of thought were beneath you when you actually lived there, but then at the very end you're like,
but that's a strange dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Between I live there, so I'm a native.
Yeah.
But
so I'm not
do the touristy things.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I talked to some students, and I don't know, they say, yes, I've been to Liverpool, I've been to Edinburgh, I've been to all of these different cities in the UK, which I have never visited. And they say, what do you mean? How haven't you visited Liverpool? How haven't you visited Edinburgh? How haven't you visited Scotland?
Yeah, it's strange.
I live in England. I lived in England, so for me, doesn't change.
Maybe it will. It will probably change over the next year. It seems.
I hope so.
People will be doing a lot more traveling within their countries, which I think is nice. To be honest.
Yeah, there we go. Louisa has summed it up. I've traveled a lot around the world, but I don't know some areas of my country. Exactly. So, shall we move on from this?
Sure thing.
Because these are a little bit general questions. So we're going to look at some of these phrases. Okay, that's all of them loaded up. Can you read the first one? So make history.
Make history. Guy Fawkes made history with his plot to blow up the Houses of Parliament in London.
Very, very infamous. Go down in history. Fawkes went down in history as London's most notorious terrorist.
And earn a place in history. Michael Phelps earned a place in history by becoming the most successful Olympian of all time. He won his 22nd Olympic medal at the London Olympics in 2012.
Fantastic. Cool. Yeah, Louisa says now I think that it will. There's no need for it'll be impossible to move for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I reckon so as well. But now we can go on tours of Modena. I want to go on a tour of like balsamic vinegar, something like that.
Ooh, yeah.
With some cheese as well. Like do some
Yeah.
I'm happy that I'm in this place. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe we can't travel to places far away, but we're in a nice place. I don't think we can complain.
Exactly.
So we've got these different uses, different verbs used with history that do have different uses. So made, went down, earned a place. We could probably divide them into positives and negatives. For example, earned a place in history is going to be positive.
Always, exactly.
I can't imagine
using that, and
I'm trying to think of like historical figures. So obviously Hitler or Stalin.
Earned a place. I think we would say.
I don't think we would.
Another phrase. It implies a kind of, because to earn is to gain something of value because of your virtues. No?
Yeah, exactly.
So if you said it about Stalin, it might imply that
you agree.
Yeah.
With his views. Yeah.
Whereas here, Michael Phelps, we're saying he worked hard. It was a good achievement, a positive achievement. So to earn a place in history. And we should say that the whole thing is a set phrase, right? We can't say like, I don't know, earn a space or earn it. No. It's earn a place in history. That's it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So earn is definitely a positive. Went down, I'm trying to think if we could use that as a positive. We'd probably use this for negatives or infamy.
Yeah. So sometimes it is, I think, more negative, but I can imagine it being used in like a slightly ironic way, as in it was a party that went down in history as the craziest party ever. It's kind of negative. The idea is that you're doing something outrageous, something dangerous, something crazy. So it goes down in history. But yeah.
Exactly. So if you don't know this word, it's infamous. We also have infamy, which is the noun. Careful, a lot of students want to pronounce it, and it's very natural, infamous, but we actually close that A for this one. So infamous and infamy. So if we compare this to famous, famous tends to be for positive reasons, usually. So you're a celebrity, maybe you're an actor, maybe you are very active in your local community, so you're famous there. But if you're infamous, it tends to be for negative or not necessarily positive reasons. So I'm trying to think of a good concrete example without using Hitler and Stalin all the time.
Do you know what? The word infamy, this is a bit of a tangent, but it does directly relate. The word infamy always makes me think of Carry On, Caesar. Carry On films, guys, it's hard to describe what the Carry On films are. They're like a British comedy phenomenon from the 60s and 70s. And there's an amazing scene with a pun, with a joke, a play on words in it, where Caesar has just been stabbed by the senators. Oh no, he's being chased by them. He's not been stabbed yet, but he's being chased by them. And he runs into the room. Spoilers, exactly. And he said, the joke is, it's really bad. It's Kenneth Williams. You can find it online probably. He's running into the room and he screams, infamy, infamy. They've all got it infamy. I can explain. So if you have it in for someone, you really hate them, right? You want to hurt them, you want to harm them. Like, oh, I really got it in for her. Or I don't know why this teacher's got it in for me. He always gives me bad grades. Like, he doesn't like me. Infamy is notorious, is bad fame, like you're famous for the wrong reasons. So yeah,
Exactly.
in the film, Caesar yells infamy, infamy. They've all got an infamy. If you search infamy carry on YouTube, I'm sure you will find it.
I'll write
Anyway,
it. I'll write it. There you go. So everyone can do some research.
yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so
Oh,
Caesar maybe.
hello, Renata, as
Hey,
well.
Martha, hi.
She agrees with Louisa too. But again, we're in nice places. And I think Alessandra has the inside knowledge.
Whoa, 28th.
My God, what a powerhouse.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
a man. And Louisa has a very good example. So yeah, Hitler went down in history as a terrible dictator. Fantastic. Fantastic. Make history, honestly, this could be used scientifically as well. So for positives. So let's say, for example, I achieve something that has never been done before, then I could make history, right? If I find a cure for all types of cancer, then I make history with my discovery. In this case, it's negative. Obviously, Guy Fawkes made history with his plots. But I guess maybe it's because it's monumental, regardless of whether it's positive or negative. I don't think there had been a terrorist plot like that in history up until that moment. Definitely not in Britain. He wanted to destroy the entire political system, essentially. Never been done before, so it's monumental and it made history. Would you agree with that as well?
Yeah, I think the idea, like you said, is that it's something new and it has a huge impact. Yeah, an impact of like monumental proportions. Maybe like, you know, things afterwards are not the same as they are before, so it's made history.
Exactly. Would we use this for things that are not people though? So for example, this current situation we're in made history because it changed maybe how the airlines worked, how I think we usually use it with people. So maybe Italy made history with their, so maybe a country as well. Italy made history with their, what do we say? Lockdown measures. Thank you, Hal.
Yeah, I think it usually, because it implies, the idea is we're using the verb make because it implies some kind of action, someone doing something. So I think it has to imply a kind of agency. So probably, yeah, either a person, an individual, or a society. But the idea is that someone's doing something. So I wouldn't say coronavirus made history in 2020. It sounds a bit strange. It sounds like the virus. We're giving the virus too much credit. Damn you, virus. You
personification almost.
Exactly. Whereas we could say exactly that the government made history because they did something.
This is a good example as well.
Yeah, made
Mary
history.
Curie made history. Fantastic. Really good, Louisa. So pay attention. Obviously, we're only changing one word. We're changing the verb, and it has very different implications. So let's have a look. We're going to think of different things for our cities. We can talk about famous landmarks, well-known products, famous artists or writers, renowned. Again, here as well, we don't renowned. It's not renowned or anything, it's renowned. People from your city. Well-known events. So, I'm trying to think though, like Hal, who has earned a place in history in your town?
So I'm from Woking, because I don't know if you guys heard at the beginning, or Woking, West Byfleet. West Byfleet is the village, as we explained. Woking is the slightly bigger town that I'm near to. Its history is interesting because it doesn't have history until around until the mid 1800s, because which in the UK is relatively recent. It would be the same in Italy, no? Because I mean, mostly because the soil there is very poor. It's kind of like heathland, which means it's not arable. There's not much agriculture. So kind of pre-industrialization, it was just sort of rich people's estates.
Okay,
still is,
Lords.
but lords of the land, that kind of thing. And then this is a kind of segue, a bit of a strange one, but the graveyards in London towards the end of the 1800s were overflowing. There were not enough space to bury people. I don't know if you guys have ever been to, like, if you go to Highgate Cemetery in northern London, you get this impression of like really rammed graveyards that are rammed, really crammed and crowded, right, with bodies. So from Waterloo, they built something that was called the Necropolis Railway, which is quite an
Oh
amazing
my God.
which went down to Woking, which has, I guess, a place in history. It didn't earn it though, so maybe it made history because in Woking, the country's first crematorium was built, and also a huge graveyard. So there was then a train line from Waterloo to Woking, which carried bodies from central London out to be buried or to be cremated. And obviously there was now also a train line going back into London. And from there, it kind of began to develop as a suburb of London.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but that's it. And then since then, it's just become a dormitory town. It was a big Quaker area for a while as well. I don't know why. Which means
Really?
that it doesn't have any pubs, or there are very few pubs in the area where I grew up, because Quakers don't drink. And famous people, the only thing I know is that H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds in the book, hilariously, is in the Martians, the aliens land on a heath where my parents walk their dog, so near Woking. It's a real place. Because I think when he was writing it, a suburb in Surrey was kind of this exciting new, social experiment. So it kind of felt really science fiction-y. Whereas these days, it's like if you're a Martian and you come to Earth, you don't land in a very boring place. But if you read the book, it's about the guy trying to get from Woking to central London. He has to travel from Woking to central London to warn the government that there are aliens. So in Woking Town Centre, there's a huge Martian, a huge sculpture of a alien tripod. There we go.
That's so funny though. The aliens arrived at night. They landed in Woking.
Yeah.
To give you an idea, because obviously if you're not from England, this doesn't make a lot of sense, but
no, it's funny.
But to give an equivalent, it would be like landing somewhere not completely insignificant here in Italy, but somewhere where nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
Not in the sense of, oh, nothing happens, so maybe it could be mysterious.
No.
In the sense of nothing happens and there's nothing there. Like out of all of the places.
Yeah, but I think when he wrote it, it probably had a different.
Probably, yeah. It must have.
Experimental kind of, it's the suburbs of London, but now it's the most.
It's kind of it's the middle. It's not so.
It's something that Harry Potter, guys. Harry Potter grew up. The house where he lives is in Surrey somewhere. I think is the idea. Yeah. In the home counties, and that's the idea. It's like the most kind of boring, muggly, average place. Privet Drive, exactly. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I didn't know that. So it kind of went down in history for these things then.
I guess.
Definitely did.
Also, much more recently, Prince Andrew said that he remembered going to Pizza Express in Woking when he was being interviewed about the Epstein allegations. So,
oh God.
Suddenly, I've been to the Pizza Express in Woking, although I can't remember going, if I'm honest with you. But that was the last time I remember Woking being in the
That's definitely infamy.
Yeah. Infamy.
Oh my God. Louisa has something here. So in Monza, every September, there's a well-known event. Oh yeah, Formula One.
Of course, yeah.
Definitely. So it's earned a place in history, I think, at that point, because it's quite prestigious. Obviously, Formula One.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. And we have another one from Alessandra. Lenin in the Russian Revolution. So earn the place, yes.
Yeah.
If you agree with his views, then yeah. Steve Jobs with Apple products, again, yes, earned a place. Again, this depends. It's very, very subjective. So if you hate Apple and you hate Steve Jobs and you hate everything that he stood for, then you probably wouldn't say he earned a place in history. It could be subjective. Obviously, I think we can all agree that they did a lot, right? They changed society. So I think you'd be hard pressed to say that he didn't earn a place in history, but you can change it. Picasso painting Guernica, yeah. Vincenzo de Luca and Luigi de Magistris, battles in this period. Okay, yeah. And the Olympic Games. Yes, definitely. Definitely the first Olympic Games made history, right? Because it was this connecting of nations, of cultures.
And Martina, in Milan, we have the Last Supper by Da Vinci. Yeah. Huge. So Milan is, I mean, I have to say
I didn't
that.
expect it though.
What?
I imagined that when I saw the Last Supper, I would imagine that it would have been in a more of a rural kind of environment. I don't know why.
You're right.
I didn't picture it in Milan, maybe like Rome, Florence, somewhere in Tuscany, but not in Milan. I visited it and it's fantastic.
I've been to Milan and I didn't go. I'll go
You
again.
need to book way in advance. That's the problem. Luckily, I have been. It's kind of a surreal experience because they essentially have controls. So they have doors so that they can control the atmosphere and everything inside. And you're left alone in this massive, basically barnyard room with the Last Supper at the back. And you can get relatively close to it. There is a barrier, so you can't touch it, obviously. But you're allowed to freely explore the space and view it from different angles for, I can't remember if it was like 15 or 20 minutes, but you're just in this room to appreciate it, essentially. It's really nice. It's really, really nice. Were you going to ask about mine? Because honestly, there's nothing. King's Kerswell.
King's Kerswell.
There's nothing. There is nothing at all.
How long has there been a King's Kerswell? Oh my goodness.
King's Kerswell.
King's Kerswell. Yeah, it's quite hard to say. At least it is today.
It's been around. There's always been a settlement there as far back as the Iron Age. So
okay.
So not super. I mean, it has a stream. It doesn't have an important river or anything. So people would maybe settle in different places close by. But King's Kerswell itself, it has records of it in the Doomsday Book. So it's old. It's not new, but it's insignificant. It's such a small place.
Maybe we can, the Doomsday Book, guys, it's actually quite,
that's really cool.
Useful to know about in UK history because it's like one of the, I don't know how to describe it, after the Norman conquest, so in the 11th century, there's this huge record made of land that's being, who owns it and who will own it after the Norman conquest in 1066. And so there's this huge book. It's actually like a series of records, which often we refer to in English history, right? It's very kind of common for people to say, oh, it's in the Doomsday Book, which means we know that it's around 1,000 years old.
Exactly. Bye, Louisa. Thank you for joining in. Thank you.
Have a good afternoon.
So maybe even people who do a little research into their family, if they manage to follow their family tree all the way back, then they should have a reference in the Doomsday Book because it not only said talked about land ownership, but I think it also talked about families, right? So who they were married to, if they had children, etc., what their position was, etc.
Exhaustive.
Yeah, and that went down in history as well, because it was the first undertaking, I think, of having such a comprehensive review of this belongs to this person. In 1086, it's not easy.
No. Bye, Renata. Have a good afternoon.
Bye. Have a great afternoon. Yeah, exactly. We've got our last 5 minutes. I'm just going to have a look at what we can do, because St. Petersburg, I don't think we have enough time here to deep dive into that, but we can have a little look at some passives.
Sure.
Just very briefly. So we have different passives, obviously. Passives in English are always made up of 3 things, that one of them changes. So we have the subject, the verb to be, and the past participle. A lot of people I've seen study the passives by studying each individual passive and then memorizing it. But honestly, you just need to learn this structure. So subject, be, past participle. The subject doesn't change, obviously, and the past participle doesn't change either. You just need to know how to conjugate that. The verb to be is the thing that changes everything. So if you conjugate the verb to be for the correct tense, you have the passive in whatever tense you want. Not whatever. I think there are some exceptions, like we can't have present perfect continuous passives because it's just, I'm trying to think. We can't do that. So there are some, but for the most part, you can conjugate whatever you want, just conjugating the verb to be. Exactly. So if we have a look at the examples, could you read them, Hal? So I stopped talking.
St. Petersburg was founded in by. We use by when we're giving the agent in the passive. What would be the subject if it was active becomes by whoever. It was originally named Petrograd. It is known as one of the most famous cities in the world. It has been invaded twice, and London had been ruled by the Romans for centuries.
Exactly. Cool. So you can see the only thing that's changed in all of these is the verb to be. You can substitute them and it changes. So St. Petersburg, if I want to change to the present, doesn't make a lot of sense, but is founded in. Now you've got a present passive.
Right.
You can change them all.
You sometimes use that when you're on a tour or something. To give it a dramatic effect. Is founded. And we use it here in these examples. I guess we use it often, like here, because the person doing the action doesn't matter. We want to focus on this new subject, which is the city in this case.
Exactly.
That's the story we're telling something about the city, and we want to emphasize that history. So we don't need to know, or maybe we don't know, it doesn't matter who named it.
Yeah, no, exactly. So you see this a lot in the news as well, because either the person is not important or we don't know who it was. For example, if we talk about politics, we would say was elected rather than the English populace elected. There's no need, it's obvious, right? Okay, so we're in our last minute. So if you have any last questions, please ask them now or forever hold your peace. That's what we say at wedding. Do modern weddings still say that now?
Yeah, I think so. I think they do.
It's a very old kind of.
Remember.
Semantically, it's quite old.
Speak now or forever hold your peace. Yeah.
It's definitely not modern English. Okay. If not, please visit our mYes SOS Facebook page. And for any questions, we've got lots of teachers now answering loads of questions. So please go there. And if nothing else, enjoy your afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. And we'll see you when we see you.
See you when we see you. Take care, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.